Hello and welcome to Against Gravity, your favorite podcast that brings you thought-provoking conversations with change makers, game changers, and problem solvers. I'm your host, Henry Devon. My guest on today's episode of Against Gravity is Regina Honu, a Ghanaian social entrepreneur, software developer, and computer scientist. And she is the founder of Soronko Solutions, a software development company here in Ghana. Regina is also the founder of Soronko Academy, a coding and human-centered design school for children and young adults in West Africa. She is also the founder of Tech Needs Girls. Regina has received numerous recognitions as one of the women making an impact in tech in Africa and named as one of the 10 female entrepreneurs to watch in emerging economies. Regina belongs to the African Leadership Network and is a Mandela Washington Fellow. Now into our conversation, closing the gap in tech with Regina Honu. All right, joining me now is Regina Honu. As I read to you, she's making incredible social impact as a social entrepreneur and founder of Soronko Academy and Soronko Solutions. Thanks for joining our show, Regina.
Thank you so much, Henry, for having me.
Great. This is Against Gravity. We have conversations with change makers like you who share their story to inspire listeners who are young, creative people across the world. Now, there's so much information about you. I've read a bit of your profile to our listeners, but in your own words, how would you describe yourself? Who is Regina Honu?
Okay, so I would describe myself as somebody who is a go-getter and likes to think outside the box and push against the status quo. So I am non-conventional in my approach to life, in the way I do things. And I think I have, along my journey, understood that, fear is a learning experience and to keep pushing even though you're afraid. So I describe myself as a tech social entrepreneur. Also, I'm passionate about women and girls and bridging the gender gap in technology. And I'm also passionate about driving social change on the continent.
And you're doing amazing at that. But let's track your journey. I read a bit about you. You described yourself as shy and reserved growing up. How does it sound like?
So definitely shy and reserved. I mean, I think it was part of my early socialization, whereby there's a proverb here that a child is supposed to be seen and not heard. And as a good young lady, you're just supposed to smile and nod, smile and nod. So I was really very shy growing up. I didn't like to lift my hand in class. I didn't like to step out of my comfort zone. Up till now, I think it's one of the things I battle internally as a CEO because I have to have a switch personality. So I actually have to come into a new personality when I am doing public speaking, or so I have this persona. And you hear it like with artists, they'll be like, oh, Beyonce has Sasha Fierce. So I had to create, yes, I had to create this entire personality that I tap into, when I have to speak. But if you met me somewhere, I mean, I wouldn't stand out at all because I would be the quiet one. And up until I'm introduced, you'd be like, oh, wow, was it that quiet one sitting there, Nothing would have said that I am who I am. So yes, I'm still even working on that up till now.
Oh, that's inspiring for every shy and reserved girl out there. Work on it, you can achieve greatness no matter your personality. But let's talk about one of the turning points in your life. At age 16, I think you won a competition that took you to Norway and transformed your mindset. What did you see and hear and feel in Norway that really changed you?
So for me, when I won the competition and I decided to pick Norway as a country, I picked Norway because I knew nothing about it and also because of the weather. Like I felt, okay, I live in a warm, hot country. Let me go to a very cold country. Norway was really a turning point in my life. I cannot stress that enough. For me, the first thing was that global exposure and seeing a different way people do things. I mean, Scandinavians are very resourceful. They follow the rules, and they are very innovative in their approach to different things. So for me, the first thing is I went to school as an exchange student in Norway. And in school, it was very informal between the teachers, and the students. And you were encouraged to ask questions. and you couldn't really differentiate between rich children, poor children. Like everybody seemed to be like just living around equally. Like somebody could come from a very rich home, but then they would come to school and just be normal. The other thing for me was I took a science program, and in SS, I left as one of the best science students in my school, but it was just from rote memorization. So I didn't really understand anything. Osmosis is the flow of water from an upward motion to a downward motion. I just memorize it. If they ask me, what is osmosis? I'll write it down. So I can draw a very advanced electrical circuit. But if you give me two wires and a bulb, I'll be looking at you like, which one is earth? Which one is positive? I have no idea. And so that manifested itself in my classes, because the teaching methodology was very practical. It was very problem solving oriented, right? So they'll give you a challenge or a problem, and then they'll give you like a formula book and everything with all the formulas, and you would have to deduce. And I had no idea how to do that. I knew how to work with past questions. I knew the stuff that I had memorized, and all of that. But when you gave me a word problem or problem and I had to apply critical thinking, I was stuck. I was like, okay, like, what am I supposed to do? How do you do this? So I even remember my teacher in Norway was like, was I really doing science? Because it was like, I couldn't. And so for me, that was also another big piece. The other thing was when I was in Norway, my host family pushed me to try so many firsts. Like I went skiing for the first time. In fact, I learned how to ride a bicycle for the first time in Norway. I went mountain climbing. I went rollerblading. I went like up hills. We stayed on some ice places. It was crazy. But what that taught me was that I am more than what I think I am, because they pushed me to things that initially when they presented it to me, I was like, no, there's no way I can do this. And then I was able to do it against different weather conditions, against different things. So that really taught me how adaptable I can be as a person, and how I can rise to occasion. So I left there with those two key things. The first one was we need to change our educational system. Like we're not being taught how to think. We're just being taught how to pass exams. The second thing was, I can really do more than what I think I can do. So really, for me, going on that AFS experience was really a life-changing moment.
Oh, and it was quite adventurous as well.
Yes, it was.
For that experience, did you always want to become a computer scientist, or?
No, so before it was doctor, the traditional rules for what you have an acumen, and if you're good in math and science, they sing you that doctor lyric. And that was what was presented to me. So I would always write, my name is Regina, and when I grow up, I want to be a doctor. So fast forward, I think it was 12 when my father brought home a computer. I fell in love with Pac-Man, a game that I played, and I wanted to change it. And I was told in order to do that, I had to learn how to code. But it's important to know that from the time that I had the aspiration to want to go into computer science, I never touched the computer I never really did anything coding related till university. So between that period, I nursed my desires and ambition with maybe some engagements with the computer for a very short period of time, and also like not having enough role models. So even though I really wanted to do this, I didn't get experience early on. Imagine what I could have been able to accomplish if I started even earlier. So that's why I'm also very passionate about empowering, young girls, especially to start early, because it took me a while moving from ambition to actually learning to code.
And moving on, you worked with two banks in Ghana, and you were the only female in the IT department of Zenith and Fidelity Banks. How was it being the lone female voice in that room, and what did that teach you? What did that experience teach you?
And so it was quite a challenge, being in a male-dominated space and being a minority. And by minority, I mean the only one. It was difficult, I won't lie. I went through different experiences, from stereotyping to sexism to all different things. And for me, I had to learn how to work with males. I'm sorry, Henry, can you hear me? I just want to check because
Yeah,
I
I
think.
can hear you clearly.
Okay. So I had to learn, how to work with males. I always say I had to learn about the male ego. So what that means is that if you come to an idea before the men, sometimes it may be seen, as, okay, who is this one? So I had to learn to bring people along. So actually, that was also a good learning experience. The other thing was I had to assert myself and sometimes bring my seat to the table. So most of the time there will be discussions or conversations, and I would say something, and it's like as if there was some wind blowing in the background. So I'd have to learn how to repeat myself, and say it louder. Or I would say something, and then somebody, a man would say the same thing, and then they'll be like, "Oh yes, John," as you were saying. Was I talking in a tree? I just said that. And also, it would just be like, "Oh, we're having a meeting. We need some tea and coffee, and who's gonna take minutes?" And then all eyes would just move to me, and I'll be like, "Why are you looking at me?" Because I don't drink tea and coffee, so don't ask me to make those things. And I'm not a secretary. I don't take minutes. We are all, tech people. I don't know shorthand. I don't know. So I had to really also position myself like, look, don't typecast me. Just because you want lunch or tea and coffee, don't look at me. We all came here with technical competence. So anybody can do the tea and coffee. So I had to really, and also I had to develop a tough skin, right? Because you have a lot of people who will be discouraging you. And it was so interesting, right? In my journey, I had even some women that would come to me and be like, "Hey, this IT thing that you're doing, where do you see yourself? I think you should stop and go into sales or go in some other space and, or isn't it too difficult? Or isn't it too this? Or isn't it too that?" And I remember in one of the banks, they didn't hire females for system developers because they worked at night. And they felt that, I don't know, women can work at night, or maybe your husband will be asking you why you come in late and blah, 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 I don't know. But, for some of the roles that I took them at night. And I think one of the narratives I would have left was that women can do anything, it doesn't really matter what they have to do. But it was quite a challenge. It was quite a challenge, and it was pretty lonely. And I think that is also the other challenge for women in tech spaces to continue on that trajectory. So there's a lot that is done to get them into the field. But when it isn't an encouraging environment, and I struggled on my work-life balance, right? I was 90% work because there was so much on my table, and I was trying to work twice as hard to prove myself. So what that meant was that I neglected family, I neglected friends, I wasn't balanced in my approach, and I wasn't very happy with the way things were going. So I had to also quickly learn that you must balance things out. And it's fine. You have people that will doubt you. Even up till now, I still get the 5-second shock reaction. When I introduce myself as a tech CEO, it's like, that's not what I was expecting. I'm like, what were you expecting? Anyways. So you also have to develop very tough skin, to be able to take different criticism and don't take things personally. That's another nugget that I learned. I mean, there is that feedback, or you hear a lot of people say women are emotional. What they mean, I'm trying to understand that is like women may take things personally. We're not emotional, but we receive information and we may personalize it, right? So it isn't, men and women are both emotional, but maybe women may personalize some things and then take it as you are attacking their person as opposed to attacking the issue. So I also had to learn that, look, if I receive feedback and it's negative, you're not attacking me as an individual. Even when you're attacking me as an individual, I mean, I've not heard that part. I see, are you attacking the issue? And then I focus on, okay, what was what you talked about? So I learned not to take things personally. I learned, how to not burn bridges, which is also another important thing, but to see like, if I got a no, learn from that experience and, keep it moving. So really there was a lot of learning, but it was quite challenging. And the last piece was the sexism issue, right? So in male-dominated spaces, consent and permission, can be a challenge. And this is what I mean. There are some men, when they wield a certain amount of power, feel that, they can take advantage of that power to get a woman to do all sorts of things. And most of the time, sexual favors or sexual advances is on the table. I have been to meetings where I'm presenting some project that I want to work on, and right after I gave my best pitch, which I spent my whole night working on, it would be, "Oh, are you on Facebook? Let's do some lunch." Like, he didn't hear everything that I said. He was just assessing me. Or I remember an incident where I took a meeting at 9 p.m. Actually, the meeting was supposed to be scheduled at 7 when I was starting out in my journey. But there were certain things that happened between me and my potential client that made the meeting delay. And because I didn't have my own office, he said, "Oh, can we meet in a hotel?" And I mean, for me, just like Henry, I'm sure you can imagine with any other entrepreneur, like business is business, hotel, office, bank. I mean, so we met in this hotel. It was in the lobby, open space, not like we met in a room. And I sat down, and as soon as I sat down, he got up and walked to me and started to touch me. And I was like, what's happening here? And then he was shocked that I was shocked because in his mind, he felt that I had given consent by agreeing to meet him in a hotel at 9 p.m. What did I think was going to happen? And I was like, what do you mean by that? Like, I thought we were going to talk business. Why would I think any other thing? So for him, he was like, I mean, young lady, be serious. What else would you? So if anything had gone left, I know society would have also said, what were you doing at 9 p.m. at the hotel? What were you expecting? That kind of thing. So I also had to limit, the where I took meetings and the times I took meetings. So once again, even as a female, I couldn't go as far as men would go in certain instances because I had to protect myself. And I had to really think about those instances where maybe for you as a guy, Henry, you are just thinking about your pitch, about how to negotiate, how to deliver a good presentation and win the contract. I have to think about my pitch. What did I wear? How did I present myself? How to fight off an advance, and in some instances when there are like older men, if I raise my voice pitch, my tone to one octave because I'm passionate, it may be seen as disrespectful. But if you, Henry, maybe raise your tone because like maybe there's a back and forth and you are really making a point and you get passionate, you'll be seen as, oh wow, this guy is forceful, he's going places. I will be seen as, who is this one that doesn't know her place? You are talking to your elders and you raise your voice because of what. So I even had to learn how to make sure that in the heat of a conversation or a discussion or a debate, I kept my tone at a certain place and raised it when I needed to, but brought it down and all of that. So those are all different learnings I had to learn navigating in a male-dominated space in a patriarchal society like Ghana.
Oh, what an experience. And I think we're able to break all of these barriers. We educate ourselves and be better, make every environment enabling for both men and women equally. At a point, Regina, before you started Soronko Solutions, you're flown by Microsoft to Washington for an interview, but you ended up starting your own technology firm. Take us through that point in your life and what helped you, make that decision.
So for me, I remember I got a call one day and they were like, oh, Microsoft is exploring recruiting talent from the continent. So before, they recruited from other places, but not Africa. And I think the Africans and Microsoft were lobbying that they should look at recruiting talent. So I went through the process. There's a phone interview, there's an aptitude test, it's like a lot to even reach the stage of getting an interview, at Microsoft campus. So when I was scheduled to fly to Microsoft and do the interview, the Microsoft interview is a whole day interview that tests your mental, emotional, physical. I don't know if there's a third dimension. It's everything. Like I feel like it's a whole day, and the interview in itself is an experience. But as I was sitting in the waiting area, something happened which was so interesting. Microsoft had this waiting table that gave you a tactile experience. So it was a touch screen table. It was the first time I've seen that in my whole life, right? So you could actually press on the table and select what you wanted to see on the table. So if you wanted an ocean view, when you click ocean, the top screen would change into like an aquarium. You see fishes. If you wanted to check news on the table as you were waiting, you would touch and then you could. I was just blown away, Henry. I was just like, oh my God. And I was thinking, so when will Africa reach this point? Like, when can we create such innovations? When can we bring such convenience? Like, just even waiting at Microsoft, you can have an experience with a table, So I just started to think, there's been a lot of talk. If I get a job at Microsoft, it would be great. It would be amazing. But I would have contributed to the brain drain, right? Where the best and the brightest leave the continent. And I was like, if Microsoft sees value to bring me all the way to Redmond to even take the interview, why don't I explore using that value to develop Ghana? So why don't I think about now going back and start to walk the talk? Because I had played with the idea of starting something myself, but there was always this voice that tells you you're not ready, you can't do this, you don't have a rich uncle, those things, right? So when I left, I was like even more determined. I was like, no, Regina, this is time. It's time now that you start to walk the talk. It's time now that you start to build the innovations, you start to contribute to ideas, come back home and work on that. So when I came back, my mind was transformed and I started taking steps on, wanting to leave and start my own business. But once again, fear held me back. So even when I left that Microsoft experience with, I really want to do this, I didn't immediately go and say I'm resigning. It took me a while. So, that was also the other thing. I kept analyzing and rationalizing. I'm not ready. I can't do this, all of that. So I always say I put a snooze button on my dream. And I know a lot of young people do that. Tomorrow is not promised. So you don't have to keep procrastinating and holding yourself back. So yes, so from that period, I left with the determination to come back and be the change I wanted to see. But it took me some time to actually make that move.
Wow. Interesting. And in 2012, you established Soronko Solutions, a tech and social enterprise to develop innovative technology for businesses. And Soronko means unique for people listening who cannot speak Tree. It's an Akan word that means unique, different, it stands out. A year on, you started a movement called Tech Needs Girls, which was mentoring young girls to learn to code and develop digital skills. So it's 8 years on. How did you come up with the idea for Tech Needs Girls, and how has the impact been so far?
So for me, when I started Soronko Solutions, I started it because I didn't like how NGOs operated at the time, where they relied solely on donor funding, and also because I was shy and reserved. I didn't even know. I was like, how am I going to even ask for send in proposals and ask for money and all of that? So for me, Soronko Solutions allowed me to still develop solutions and generate revenue to allow me to do my social impact work. So that's how I started. I started off with a project called Growing STEMs, Growing Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math Skills. And I started off in the rural areas. And whenever I took out these computers or I started these sessions with young children, it was only the boys that participated. The girls were sitting at the back, didn't really engage. And in one session, a boy and a girl come. The boy tells the girl, laptops are not for girls. And the girl said, but I am a girl because I had the laptop. And so for me, that really was another turning point where I realized that in order to get more women and girls into technology, we had to show them role models, other females in technology. And so the idea of Tech Needs Girls was born. I also wanted to start early. And so we targeted young girls from 6 to 18. And at the time, there were several programs around teaching young people how to consume technology. So the tech-related programs that were running in the country were all around Microsoft Office, Microsoft Excel, like different ways of consuming technology. But there wasn't anything around coding, especially coding for young girls. And when I started and I was like, I want to teach girls how to code, everybody was like, code? No, 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 no. I mean, they won't understand. Don't you have to be in university? And there was even that mindset, like you have to go to university to study computer science, like you're not ready. And when I was like, I want to start from six, hey, no, 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 they won't get it. Girls are not built for math and science. Their brain, some people give me arguments about the brain. Their brain is not well. I was like, what is this rubbish? So for me, Tech Needs Girls was a mentorship program where we were teaching girls how to lead and innovate by learning to code. I just had the vision for me at the time was to impact one girl's life. That was just it. I mean, I couldn't have imagined what would have happened 8 years on now, right? And now we've done, I think we're approaching 20,000 that we've trained, women and girls across all the regions and also expanded to Burkina Faso. We have several impact stories. But for me, what is important is changing that narrative, and getting different partners and allies to come on board because they've seen, the impact of getting more women and girls. We're seeing more women and girls enter technology spaces in different roles, finding different career paths, using technology their way, innovating their way. And for me, that is like really cool and key. I meet young ladies. I met an amazing young woman who was doing a lot of great projects. And when she met me, she introduced herself and she was like, oh, do you remember me? I was in your first Tech Needs Girls program. Thank you. And now I'm doing A, B, and C. Now we have several of our alumni in different jobs, starting their own business. And we've even changed the conversation. Now it's more like, oh, what else can women and girls do in technology, as opposed to before when it was like, can they really do this? I'm invited to speak at different policy, advising different organizations, including governments. I'm a TVET champion, and I'm helping different institutions design their curriculum. We're working on piloting, introducing coding, to public schools. So it's been quite a journey, and I'm so proud of like what we've been able to accomplish and how now the narrative has changed when it comes to women and girls in technology.
Amazing story. The voice of Regina Honu there. She's our guest on Against Gravity. She's sharing her story of how she's helping shape the, tech space for young girls and empowering the next generation of women with technology. Regina, I think one thing people really are fascinated about is how you targeted girls and women in underserved communities, rural communities. That must be a challenging hurdle, teaching girls who may have little to no idea about how to use computers, to code, to do, little digital things. What's the magic to this approach?
So you really have to understand the women and girls where they are now and understand their situation and look at all the different obstacles they have to face. So let me give you an example. When we started and we decided to target women and girls in underserved communities, there was a reason. And for us, it was making sure that we don't leave any women and girl behind. When you look at women and girls that have accomplished a lot, that are making strides, especially in the capital or in different places in Ghana, we form the minority. We are not the majority. The majority of women and girls in Ghana are in these communities, don't have opportunities, don't have platforms. So in order to really contribute to uplifting women and girls, you have to go to places that people don't want to go to. And you have to understand the reality. So empathy is really an important tool or skill to have. When we go into these spaces, we understand the dynamics. And the dynamics is we identify change leaders or people that will yield influence in these communities, and we bring them as champions and allies to help us spread the word. So in Nima, one of the urban slums that we worked in, we had to get the chief man in that community to be an ally to our project so that he could convince parents to let their young girls come and study, or come and take time out of their chores, because young Ghanaian girls are very busy. They have chores, help their mother, help their siblings, help their family. They're always doing something, So it was important to get these allies along. It was also important to develop curriculum that was practical and help the woman connect the dots now. So it's not that you are learning something technical for the future. And when you grow up, something will happen. No. At 7 years old, what can you build now that you see impact now? So I remember in one of the communities at Abaka where we worked in, we had the girls develop solutions to flooding, which was a present issue that the young ladies had to face. Each time it was a rainy season, because of the choke gutters and the lifestyle of the people there was a lot of flood, a lot of destruction, property was lost. Some of the girls, didn't have places to stay and all of that. So we worked on those issues, and worked on how they could use technology to solve those type of issues. So it's developing and using real examples of things around them. So making the content relatable, explainable, and impactful for the girl's life now. So even though we are building future skills and it's part of the curriculum, you must also let her see the relevance now. So if she's learning about artificial intelligence, about, Python, JavaScript, whatever, how does it help her now? How does it impact her life today? What skill can she use? Is it maybe she helps her mother in her business? Is it that it helps her with her schooling? Can she develop some innovative solutions? So that was very important. If you grab them in the now, they see, oh, okay, I can use technology for this. Oh, okay, I can go online and this is what's going to happen. Then it builds that self-learning. So I remember, even in one of the slum communities that we worked in, each time I would travel, I would always bring chocolates. And because there were so many girls and I didn't have a lot of chocolates, what I would do is I would challenge the girls that if you can ask me a question or ask a question to the class that people don't know the answer to, you get a piece of chocolate. So what that did was self-learning happened. They went and started researching on different things, and they'll come and ask you, what is the circumference of what, and then you just be like, Google, where are you? Take your phone, check with you. Okay, you share the answer. So it also promoted self-learning. And we were amazed at what the girls were able to discover once, they wanted to, and they got excited about that. And there was some type of incentive, at the end for that learning journey. And it was fun, So also we even would teach algorithms, and we'd use Azonto to teach algorithms, right? So we tell the young ladies, algorithms is a series of steps that execute a particular task. In order for somebody to know that you are dancing as done, so you have to execute a series of steps. So maybe it's the shoulder bobbing, then the arm moving, then you do your legs and stuff. That's how somebody knows you're dancing as done, so and not maybe running man, right? So in that same way, that's how algorithms work. So we made it fun. We did it with a lot of games, a lot of activities, and that's how you bring the young ladies, and we make them see the impacts today to everything that they have to do in their life.
Wow, amazing. Today, you've set up a coding and human-centered design academy, which is the Soronko Academy, to sustain the progress you've made with techniques, skills, and even expand it. Tell us a bit about the Soronko Academy and why is human-centered design relevant today?
Yes. So when we started off with running our programs with Techniques Girls, one of the big problems that we had was we didn't have our own space. So we would develop curriculum, run the training at spaces within the communities and leave. When a community doesn't understand what an empowered girl looks like, they beat her down even more. So you leave her at a disadvantaged position if you just empower her and leave her. No support. And especially for coding, if you don't have access to devices, to data to keep practicing, you forget. So when we would go back 6 months' time to check on our progress, we would see some of the young ladies in a worse off situation because once they had found their voice and started to assert themselves, they were getting you at too no, oh, shut up over there. Who's teaching you this? When did you start all of this? And so we realized it doesn't work in a vacuum. You can't just say, we're running a couple of programs, and most of the programs don't look at monitoring and evaluation after. So it's good and well in your initial stages to run a great program, check all the boxes and say, oh, we just finished developing this, and then you leave and you think that things will just happen. No, you must understand that you have to keep some support running no matter what program that you're doing. And so for us, that sustainability piece was to set up our own academy. And also, it became another revenue piece because before we set up the academy, we had been working with girls, women and girls from underprivileged societies. But we had a lot of privileged parents saying that they want their kids to learn how to code. They want, so why don't we teach them? And so we started a revenue model where we would offer paid for classes for affluent parents that could pay. And we use that to continue to offer scholarships to women and girls in underserved communities. And so that worked very well. And it also created that safe space for us to continue to engage with our beneficiaries, to monitor their progress, for them to have access to devices, to data, to continue practicing. And as they were learning the technical skills, we understood that we were also going against an educational system that was so heavy on rote memorization that we needed to also teach critical thinking, human-centered design, help them to understand how to problem solve with the human at the center. And so with a team from Dartmouth College, we worked on integrating human-centered design into our program. And that was very key and very important because in as much as you are learning those digital skills and creating technology, you must understand how to solve that problem and which technology works the best. So you don't just develop these solutions in isolation, but you understand the design principles to design a more efficient solution. You understand the human-centered approach in order to design something that really solves the problem, for different users. And you design these different use cases and prototype them. And that rapid prototyping so that you fail fast and learn from that was also very key. So the young ladies learn different approaches into solving problems. So it's not just you spend such a long time on something and then when it fails, you give up. But you fail. Reiterate the process. You fail, reiterate till you find a solution that solves the problem entirely.
That's an amazing model. And for people listening, this is how to make impact as a social entrepreneur. Find out what works and, try to diversify how people can still benefit from a particular program you're running. Great story there. You've spoken about the importance of role models and mentorship in STEM. For young girls listening, how can they find mentors, approach them to guide them into, chartering a path in technology?
So now I get asked this question, and I'm going to give very practical, steps for the young ladies who are listening, first and foremost, identify what you need from a mentor. Don't go in a vacuum like, okay, we hear mentoring is good. As a mentee, ask yourself, what is it that I would like to accomplish? What is my maybe my 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, And if I'm identifying a mentor, who can help me get to where I need to go to? Who can I leverage from their experience? So don't just pick anybody where you don't even, you're not even sure what you want the mentor to do for you. You just heard that mentoring is something that must happen. So you find some moment that you connected with their story, but you must understand, how do you want the mentor to help you? Because if you don't understand that, it's very difficult for mentors because they are busy, right? First thing, it's very difficult for them to clearly understand the pathway they can help you when you yourself, you don't know what type of help that you need. So identify for yourself as a mentee. What is the help that I need? Do I need somebody who can guide me? Maybe I'm starting a business, so I need to understand how to start the business and start it well. Do I need somebody who can help me understand how to public speak, how to negotiate, how to network? Do I need somebody who can bring me a certain network and teach me maybe the tools of a particular trade that I'm interested in? Be clear on what your expectations are and what you want the mentor to deliver. First one. Second one is once you've identified that mentor and you've identified what the help that you need from the mentor, how do you brand yourself as somebody who the mentor can engage with and provide value? Some people will meet an accomplished woman that they want to see as their mentor and just be like, hello. I don't know what they want to happen next. Whether you are supposed to write back to them. No, don't do that. And if you go for a program and you take a business card, maybe you are shy or you get somebody to introduce and you take a business card, the first thing that you do is you come back and you send an email. The mentor met 1,000 people that day. She won't remember you, honestly. And it's not in bad taste. She just won't remember because she met so many different people. Maybe for you remember her. But for her, she met so many people with also very amazing, exciting stories to share. So take that time once you get that first contact, even if it's WhatsApp, if it's email, whatever it is, based on what um, form of communication she was comfortable to share with you. Make sure that you reach out to just even do a little intro of who you are, what you see in the mentorship relationship. So, hello, my name is Regina, and I'm starting a social business. I'm really inspired by what you've been able to accomplish with your business. I'm interested in technology. I would like to engage or get some time to understand how to set up a tech business. What are some of the things you have to look out for? How do I build my profile online? Introduce yourself, be clear on what you want. In that case, when the mentor receives such an email, she can say, oh, okay, wow, okay, this is what Regina wants to do. Oh, even if they can't help you, they can even connect you to somebody. So there was a young lady that was looking for mentorship, and she was looking for mentorship in graphic design. That may not necessarily be my strong suit. So I connected her to an amazing graphic designer, a female graphic designer, who was able to really help her, because now that I understand that even within technology, there are different fields. It's graphic design that her interest is. I was able to even connect her to a graphic designer who would have shared even more valuable insights than me as a software developer, right? So that's also the other thing. Make sure that you do a good introduction of yourself. Make sure that, and also be clear in terms of the time. So if a mentor is able to offer you some time to engage, don't waste their time, number one. Number two, also give them time. Understand that, women juggle a lot. Like, if you take me as an example, within my mentees, I try my best to make time for them. But between running a business, being a mother, being a wife, being a sister, being a friend, there's a lot that happens. So understand that sometimes mentors in certain positions are busy. So you must also make sure that once they give you some time, meet that time and expectation. Also understand that they may not always be available, but also how can you even integrate in some of the things that they do. So for me, what I do is I allow some of my mentees to come and spend a day with me or to work on a project that we're working on so that they can get hands-on experience, and they can also spend some time with me as I'm going around. In one of my mentees, my sessions with my mentees, I took her with me the whole day everywhere I went. As I was driving and getting stuff done, I was mentoring her and, just even giving her an experience. And she was like, oh, wow, that alone was an experience, because she went to so many different places that she had never been to, right? And all of that. So spend some time to understand what you want, identify the right mentor, and be mindful of the fact that they may not always be available. Does not mean that they don't want to engage, that they are busy. You may be at the position where like you have a lot of free time, so you expect everything to revolve around your timing. That may not be the case for the mentor. Be empathetic to their situation and understand that they may be juggling so many different things. So give them that time. Check in, even if they forget. So it's good to always stay in mind. So what's up? Oh, hello. I hope you had a good day. I have one mentee that really benefited from the mentorship engagement. She ended up coming for training at the academy. She ended up getting a job at an international IT company. And it was just because of her personality. She was on me, like, not in a bad way, but just quick reminders. Oh, how was your day? Oh, can I help with this project? I would like to volunteer sometime. Oh, I'm just checking in. So she was always in my mind because she was always visible and present, you know. So even when you have that relationship, don't just be like, oh, I haven't heard from my mentor, so I'm waiting. Check in, keep that interactivity going. Maybe even if you saw some interesting article, you can say, oh, I saw this, what do you think? Like, keep it interactive, and then make sure that you are clear on what you want to accomplish with the mentorship engagement.
Oh, these are great hacks for finding a mentor, and
Yeah.
for every young girl, even every young guy as well. These are great tips you can use. Now we are talking closing the gap in tech with Regina Honu. Regina, the importance of allyship is important. If we're closing the gender gap in tech, we need to look at men being involved in that whole movement. What do you believe men can do to support and uplift young girls and even their female colleagues in tech?
So the women and girls empowerment, even as a conversation piece, without even putting it into technology, cannot happen without men, right? Men are needed in the movement, as champions, as allies, as helping us break barriers, gates, and all of that. So the first thing is for men to understand that an empowered woman is not somebody who is going to come in and, trample on your freedom or be intimidating or be disrespectful. We get a lot of that feedback. And from men who feel that if women are empowered, what that means is that they'll be disrespectful. Your wife can talk back to you 10,000 times, all of that. And we have to change that perception that if a woman is empowered, she's a helpmate who is coming to add more value to you and your family life. The way things were done have changed. You don't have to be the sole breadwinner carrying the whole family on your back. You can have an empowered woman who contributes financially to the household to make your the way you live better. So that's the first thing that we have to paint that picture. Women are not going to, be beating men. They're going to come in as allies to really push development along, to bring more innovation, because we can't develop on only one perspective. So men are very important. And as much as we need women's help, we also need the men, right? So we need the men to really help change and transform those mindsets. We need the men to really speak up sometimes to change systems. So there was a young lady that shared a story of how men would always talk over her in meetings or in group discussions. And there was one gentleman that would always go back and say, Henrietta was talking. Can we please hear what she was saying? And also echo in. We also need the men to help provide confidence. So for me, my first male figure role model was my father. He really helped me to not limit myself because he gave me the opportunity to try different things. My father never made me feel that my gender brought any limit to me. Each time I came up with any idea, my father would push me on. He would encourage me. He'd be like, Jana, you can do it. And there were moments of doubt where I would go to him and say, Daddy, I don't think I can. He was like, stop saying that. You can do this, right? So we need even the men to be those role models for the women. We need them to help uplift their confidence. We need them to be the supportive system. We also need them, especially once you come into the union of marriage, right? Where you need a supportive husband who understands, an empowered woman going places and it's part of your journey, right? So we hear behind every successful man, there's a woman. It also happens the same way. Behind every successful woman, there's a man, right? So it goes both ways. So we really need men to see utopia as a space where women and men are equal and can go after what they want equally. Right now, we're championing equity because the scales have been tipped against women for a while. But in an equal society where women are leaders, women speak out, women are able to chase after opportunities equally as men, it's a better society. So men should be happy and encouraged to see that now women are able to live up to their full potential. And they'll see that there'll be better families, there'll be more innovation, the economy will develop faster when half of the populations in most places are able to fully contribute.
Interesting. And I would say an empowered woman does not mean there's going to be a depowered man. No.
Yes,
Empowering
exactly.
people work together for collective good.
Yes.
Regina, we've been working hard to get more women in tech. Someone asked, so if there are more women in tech, how would our world be different? And what steps can we take to achieve gender equality in that space?
If there are more women in tech, like I said, it allows for more perspective, and it allows for more innovation and diversity. So let me give you a very easy example. When they first developed airbags, right, it was built by men, and they forgot to factor in that women have breasts. So when an airbag deploys, the first point of contact is was squishing, you know, women that have breasts, and so they had to go back to the drawing board and consider that, and all of that. Also, what happens is women and men, no matter what happens, will see the world in a different light based on their experiences, based on, just the different ways that they explore, or, men will always say like, oh, we can't understand women. We need a book or a manual on how women work. It's pretty simple. I have a manual. I'm just joking. But, but it's because different genders and different groups, the disabled community see the world a different way. Different minorities, even from race, have a different experience in the same situation, right? So imagine if we just have one perspective. Let's just say that if all tech solutions were built by white men, let's even put that out there. How would that reflect everybody's reality? It would be based on just their perspective, their reality. So it's important that we have those different perspectives. And women and men, and as much as men bring different perspectives, so do women. So if we have women also creating solutions with that enhanced perspective, it makes innovation better. Women can come in and say, "Oh, why don't we try this?" Or identify that, "Oh, this can work in a better than how it was working before." So that is the first reason why we need more women in tech. The second thing is you cannot have half the population not able to create technology for the world, right? So you cannot have such a large number or a large group of people where they are just sort of sitting there and are not exploring their full potential. So we need to have the voices of women. We need to have women able to also change and shape narratives, and be able to create those solutions, because technology is taking over the world. So we cannot disenfranchise a whole group of people and say, okay, women, you are not going to contribute because men are supposed to dominate the space. The other thing on how do we get more women and girls, the first thing is we start early. Like I said, it's important to introduce these different fields and disciplines to women and girls early, and introduce them to the world of technology early. There are several places where women start to, when you're in kindergarten, your teacher is a female. Once you go to primary, most of your math and science teachers are males. So that social conditioning is already happening. That, okay, this is a space for men. So we need to also have educators in the STEM field, a lot more female educators, so that even young girls see their teachers as, as females. We need also to make the curriculum more practical. And as much as I talked about perspective, women engage and learn with a lot of practicality. So if it's so theoretical, they are not able to connect. We need to also give examples relatable to them, to their experience, so that it's something that they can connect the dots to what they are learning. Mentors and role models are also very key. And we also need to push women out of their comfort zone, and also sometimes present them with opportunities. Now, I learned earlier on that in one country, I forgot which country it was, the only way they got females on boards of electrical positions or STEM positions was when they did a quota system. And what I learned from that was that sometimes if you have just one group choosing people, they are always going to give the opportunity to the group that they identify with a group that. So sometimes it's important that we break these systems of manuals or like boards where there are a lot of men, or opportunities that mostly would go to a lot of men, by putting in quota systems, or by insisting that you put in well-deserving women, not just women that can really bring value. So I know in some countries, what they do is they put quota system and they try and put a certain percentage for women. It's not discriminatory at all, because the feedback that you'll get is that is also encouraging for the women to know that they have a fair chance at securing those posts, right? And there have been several social experiments that have been done where maybe there's a CV by a man, a CV by a woman, and then you'll see that maybe the woman's CV doesn't rank as high. But when you now remove gender, you see that now the woman's CV was also as high as the man's CV. So sometimes you'll have to create systems that allow women to believe that they have a fighting chance and actually give women a fighting chance. So this is why it's important that, there are special programs for women and quota systems to bring more women into the space. So special incentives for organizations that hire a certain percentage of women in their tech teams would be great, and special incentives for organizations that promote, different programs for women will also be great. And they'll reach a point where that wouldn't have to happen, right? Where there will not be that unconscious bias. And I always give this example so that men can also understand and get it. It's like in the US, you hear stories of migrants saying that they had to fake their names, right? Or put in a more English sounding name. If there's an opportunity and then you go and you say you are Kumbun Kunchumbu, they're not going to even look at your resume. So you may have to go in and present a Peter or a Philip, or something to get that same spot. Or you may have to work on, the way you talk or make certain changes. It's the same thing for women, right? So this is why I paint that picture for you to understand that this is why we need to put in those incentives or those quotas, or remove those unconscious bias, or else it's not a fair fighting chance for women as it is for men to get certain positions, to get certain opportunities, so that we see more women in the space, because they know that once they come into the space, they'll be able to get these opportunities to thrive. Yeah.
Right. Thanks for those amazing solutions. For policymakers listening, just are really good ideas to pick up, and for painting a clear picture of what these solutions solve. Thank you so much. On this show, we have the biggest against gravity moment, where our guest tells us the biggest challenge they had to face either in their career or life, and how they're able to surmount it. So to you, Regina, what is your biggest against gravity moment so far?
I think my biggest against gravity was overcoming imposter syndrome and, pushing myself out of my comfort zone. What I have realized in my career, in my journey as a social entrepreneur, is the only person limiting me is me. And I had to work against everything to develop a mute first that voice within myself that says, I can't do this, I'm not good enough, I don't deserve, the recognition that I've gotten. So it took me some time to even embrace the fact that I was on a certain trajectory. When I started getting success in my journey, I was always waiting for a curtain to be pulled and we say, it's over, time is done now. Sit down somewhere, Regina, you had your spot. And I always was waiting for the moment where it's like your 5 minutes of fame or opportunity is over. And now it's like, no, I had to now realize that that is all in my mind. I deserve to be where I am, and there's greater things ahead of me. I deserve to push myself. And by staying quiet and playing small, I am not doing any favors to the world. So if I have been blessed with potential, I am cheating myself and the world if I limit myself by playing it small and by holding myself back. So against everything that happens, even when I am scared, even when I fail, even when I think I can't do this, I keep going, because I know that I am more than what I think I am. And the only limit is self. So I push myself more now. I, I come out of my comfort zone now. I challenge myself. I take on that bigger contract. I send in that bigger proposal. I take on that huge task, where before I would have been like, I don't think I'm ready. And when I get negative feedback, I don't take it personally. When I get a no, my thing is, how can I get a yes? What did I learn from this no? When somebody says, you're not good enough, you don't think you can do it, I show them that I am. So I think for me, the big thing was really coming into the space where I'm comfortable in my own skin and I'm not limiting myself.
Oh, thank you for sharing your guest gravity moment. I know so many people who are especially in the creative and tech industry, they face imposter syndrome. And for you to share that you had it, but you had to overcome it is really good motivation for many people out there. Now, my final question to you is, what would you have told yourself at a young age starting a career in tech? I want you to advise young girls, young women out there who are still snoozing their dream of a tech life. They are waiting to get to a better place before they chart a career in tech. What are your parting words to them?
So I would say that you are in a great time now where, because of the power of technology, there are more and more opportunities available to you. So there's no excuse for you to snooze on whatever, because as you are snoozing, some people are moving, right? And as you can imagine with COVID, tomorrow is not guaranteed. Who could have imagined that a global pandemic will come and wipe out so many people? Your dream is not waiting for you if you are just not, taking those actions and those steps to make it happen. Start today, start now, no matter how little it is. As they say, the journey of 1,000 steps begins with the first one. So you really have to push yourself and start doing something. If you keep waiting and waiting and waiting, your idea may even be outmoded or outdated by the time it comes out. So that's my the feedback that I would give. I would also say that, find those mentors or those champions or those allies that can help you. You don't have to do it all by yourself, right? And if there are some key stakeholders or some people that can help you on your journey, find them. Even if it's an accountability partner, somebody who checks in on you and then keeps pushing you, find that person. If it's somebody that you need to go and cry to, find that person. Don't go alone. And there's no need, right? You don't have to take everything by yourself and do everything by yourself. Find those key partners, find those role models, those coaches, those individuals that can help you on your journey and that can even lift you up when you are down. The last piece is find that balance, right? In life, everything is about balance. Don't go in the extreme of one. So I know several entrepreneurs that may burn out because it's like work, 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 work. No, you must find that balance and take some time to rest, take some time to build relationships. There are some great deals that are even gotten over at the golf course, and that's why a lot of executives play golf. It's not, it's because maybe they like the sport, but also it's a great networking sport. So sometimes you find opportunity in the most unlikely places. I have found several opportunities in the most unlikely places, right? It's not always in the conventional boardroom. It can be at a party, at an event, because you have such a network. And for me, your network is your network. So I have a rich network where I get opportunities more than maybe somebody else that is not in my network, because I know several people. So take time to build those networks, right? So even as you are taking time to work on your idea, make sure that you are building a network. Don't just be working in a silo until your big break. No. Even when your big break comes, it is the networks that push you. So I would say that 100% of most of the jobs that we got in the beginning were referrals, people that told other people. Opportunities that I get even today are from recommendations and referrals. So make sure that you are building that network and also working on that balance. Don't do too much of one thing. Find that balance. And as a young woman, as a young girl, what I'd also like to say is that you can have both career and family. There's a lot of people that say you pick either or. That strong, assertive, successful women can't keep husbands or families, or I don't know where you're getting that from. You can also successfully raise a family and find a good man. You must first select a good man. That's the key thing. But that can happen. So I want to talk to young women and girls that don't go with that narrative of you pick one or the other. Either you are successful and you can't find a good man and keep a family, or you have to, and in order to keep your family, you can't chase after your dreams and your career. Now you can have the best of both worlds. It depends on getting that right balance.
Amazing final words there from our guest, Regina Honu, a Ghanaian social entrepreneur, software developer, and founder of Soronko Solutions and Soronko Academy. And she began Tech Needs Girls that has impacted over 20,000 young girls, and many of which are, charting a career in the tech space. Thank you so much for speaking to us, for preparing the next generation of female leaders to step into careers powered by technology. It's been an amazing conversation. We are so grateful for coming on Against Gravity, Regina.
Thank you so much, Henry. And I really I want to applaud you for what you're doing with Against Gravity. I think this is the type of content that needs to go out there. So I also want to say kudos on a great job, and I'm glad that you're doing this.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Have a great day,
You
Regina.
too. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for tuning into Against Gravity. It's been an amazing discussion with Regina Honu. And, there's so much there to unpack. But the quote that really struck me is, while you're snoozing your dream, others are moving. And before you say you think you're ready and come out, the dream may not hold the impact it would have if you came out earlier. So don't snooze, move, find a balance, and go achieve those dreams. Thank you for tuning into Against Gravity. My name is Henry Debin. Follow at Picture Talk on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram to get to know more about our episodes. And also check out our Afrofem collection celebrating African or Black women on www.picturestock.com. Thank you for tuning in to Against Gravity. Have a good one. Bye.